500 at the Greyhound LA Spurs.
Wow.
Tottenham Hotspur in America, man. I'm telling you, this is just a steamrolling of fandom. This is awesome. Pretty soon we're not going to be able to hold, these pubs are not going to be able to hold the amount of people that we're going to be bringing out.
It's not bad for a bunch of old desperate guys, eh?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And look, not as a wind-up, but we I mean, how many Chelsea fans were in our
40.
Yeah, I think it's probably fair. Yeah. So, for such a small club to have twice as much as them, I think that says something.
Yeah. Well, because we're Americans and we root for, some of us are into the instant gratification thing and don't know piss all about the history of our club from, prior to Abramovich. Half of them, singing their songs and they don't even know the friggin' words.
Well, I want to have a thorough, honest, as unbiased of a discussion about all of this, because there's a story here, right? And it's worth talking about, and we've sort of hammed and hawed about what we're going to do, but I think it's a great story. Right? It's kind of a fun day. In spite of
ahead.
So.
Go ahead.
Well, our journey to the Staggering, and a great shout out to the Staggering Irishman and TJ, right? He is, what is he at the Staggering, is he just at Staggering Irishman?
Yes.
So I chatted with him a little bit today. He's actually a Fulham supporter, and I think he built the place 4 years ago. And, running a bar in Dallas is with the sort of fickle nature of people here is no easy thing to do. And it's been very successful, and he's catered to a football crowd. And we normally go down, or we've gone down to Trinity Hall more times than not this season. But they were showing the rugby. It was England and Ireland, wasn't it, Chairman?
Yeah.
So they had that, and then so we called TJ up and said, "Can we come?" He said yes, and great. So we sort of canvassed it about. The Chelsea supporters, I think, typically watch at another bar in Dallas called the Londoner, and for whatever reason. I'll let the worthy listeners decide why they did this, but they decided to come and find us, and they decided to tell their group that to meet us here. And I don't know how the whole Twitter thing came about, but there was a Twitter conversation, and I got involved because I kind of felt that Vicky was being wronged a little bit. And anyway, so the biggest thing, aside from all the match today, the biggest thing that I took in is the soccer dynamic, if you will, in the United States now, and sort of that culture, that organism, if you will, how it works, and how it works relative to England. And so I don't know. That's the backdrop. We'll let it go. We'll take it however we want to. But it was a really fascinating day for me, I thought. Anyway.
Well, you lay the backdrop down. I'm going to put this right out in front because I'm still kind of a little froggy about it, but it's here nor there because there was a little bit of a push and shove and point and push and all that good stuff that was going on.
There was. I missed that. When did that happen?
Yeah. And does that surprise you? Like, is that?
Well, no, and that's my point. You want to be proper English football supporters. And you want to kind of Americanize it a little bit. Well, let me tell you what, Chelsea supporters, for all you Muppets out there that are going to actually try and listen to this.
And thanks for listening. We appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
We'd invite you on, but that'll never happen.
Yeah. So anyway, they show up at your pub. I'm sorry, the Billy Nick, the Bell and Hare, all these clubs that are Tottenham clubs, proper Tottenham clubs in England, Tottenham bars, whatever, you're not going to have supporters from other groups show up. And we kind of likened it to, if you want to grab 40 or 50 of your best Dallas Cowboys friends and show up at a Philadelphia Eagles bar on game day, you're asking for shit. You're not there to banter. We don't want your banter. So to every other group out there, this is for us and our family. The 85, 95, 100 of us who, I'm sorry, these are my family. Get the fuck out. I'm really not interested in having you there. Some of you I know from FC Dallas crap, whatever, and that's fine. Take your I don't know anything about my club history mindset, the instant gratification American thing, rather than I'm going to root, latch onto the underdog club when I choose my club, which is what I did. I didn't want to instant gratification. I'm going to root for City. I'm going to root for Chelsea or United. Plastics. Every fucking one of you.
Well, hang on. Look, I'm going to be a little bit devil's advocate here. They hate that term. I mean, they really hate the rent boy plastic deal.
Rent boys.
I'm sure there are plenty.
But they're always going to be rent boys, even before money.
The plastic stuff, right? You know, because you put it on your card. That annoys. I mean, if I was a proper Chelsea supporter, that would annoy the shit out of me, right? Especially if I've been supporting the club for 20 or 30 years. But it was apparent to me today that many of those guys are somewhat new to football and are new to Chelsea. Well, look, I just said it.
Sacker, as they kept saying.
Yeah.
I tweeted this. Look, many times, and I'm not making this up, I'm not trying to wind them up, but it was true, and I noticed this, that they would try and start a song, and there was clearly anywhere from, 5 to maybe as many as 10 or 15 in their group that knew the words, but it consistently dissipated because the rest of the group didn't. And if that sort of doesn't speak to, I think, where people are in the longevity of loving Chelsea, it doesn't make them bad fans, it doesn't make them bad supporters, not at all. Not at all, but there's certainly some people in that group that had a real chip on their shoulder, and their only intent for going there was to wind us up, and that is disrespectful in my opinion, and it's completely unnecessary. I've got Arsenal mates, I've got Arsenal family members. They're more than welcome to come over to my house and watch a match. That's different, though. And John, right, and he put it in. You were bent out of shape, Simon, and I was trying to explain to somebody. I said, you just have to put it within the context of somebody that's been supporting the club for 30 or 40 years, right? You just don't do that. Whether that's not your intent, right, to upset somebody or to offend somebody, you bloody well do. You absolutely do. And that was entirely their intent from the get-go. And a lot of sort of innocent-minded people got, I think, taken along with that.
Yeah, we've got followers in the UK who just found it absolutely incredulous that we got trolled like that, because there's no other way to explain it when their home base is the Londoner, and they came solely for us at Trinity Hall, realized we weren't there, and figured out where we would be, and that's where they ended up.
Yeah.
And
they haven't been at TJ's. They haven't been to that pub all year, have they?
No.
Yeah.
It used to be a haunt of theirs, and
right.
I'm not throwing TJ under the bus, but he told us several games ago that they were a fickle bunch, and they just left and moved on to their next haunt. And
and there they are at the end of the night. TJ got up on the bar and he wanted to thank both groups for coming out. Yeah, we had a little bit of a scuffle and he had to yell and scream and point and put people in the corner. But he thanked both groups for coming out. The Chelsea guys are singing, "We love you, TJ, we do. We love you, TJ, we do." And they went through their whole spiel. And as soon as they stopped, I yelled over to him, "And that's why you plastic bunch bailed on him and went to the nice, shiny new Londoner up the street. Because you love him so much." They're completely freaking deluded. It does me in.
Look, I just like to have. I'll have to do it under the auspice of banter. It was disingenuous. It wasn't true. That wasn't what that was about, and that was to wind a group up. And all right, fine. Well, in the process, right, what you do is you show for your club. And I called this guy a bully thug, because that was the mentality. Come over to with your firm, and come over to our pub, and oh no, mate, if there was any inference of having any scraps, no, that wasn't. Oh, come on. Give me a fucking break. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And that the club is worthless because, and Simon brought this up to me in the pub. 0 English accents over there. Not one person. Not one.
I got accused of not being English. I got accused of not being English today. Why do you have an American accent? And I said, and I actually said to the guy, my parents were American, and that really wasn't truthful. It was just my stepdad. But I'm like, but wait a second. Really, Kenny. You don't have to be English to be a great supporter. You're a great supporter. You're not English.
No, but what I'm trying to say is there's no Chelsea expats that came over here. And this is going to be, it's a long point, but I want to make my point.
All right.
If there are, in North Texas Blues, proper English supporters from England, they didn't show up today because they know that what they were doing was wrong. You don't go to somebody else's fucking pub.
I didn't meet one. Did you, Simon?
I didn't hear it.
We had at least 8 to 10 expats in our group, which we do all the time.
If not more. Another shake my head moment was when they tweeted bloody wankers go back to England. I'm like, are you really like listening to what you're writing?
Right.
You're using expressions that are English. You follow an English club, and you're outing us because we're English.
Yeah. I had a conversation with this one guy, and I'll find out. I'll mention his Twitter handle later. But his comment was, I said, you'd never do that in England. And he goes, well, we're in America. And I said to him, I said, well, but you follow an English club.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, remember they all follow like two because their second team is.
Well, and that is worth.
Oh my.
Now look, I got to hand this guy who was look. In spite of some guys gunning for trouble, there were some nice guys there, and one guy in particular standing to our right, if you're facing the television screen at the bar, and he had a Chelsea scarf. I was a nice fella, and he said, "Look, man," and he was trying to be really cool, and he said, "Look, I like Spurs. You know, Chelsea's not playing. I cheer for Spurs." And I stopped him, and I said, with all due respect, you absolutely, and we've talked about this before on the show many times, you can't do that. And I told him, I said, look, let me give you an example. I said, my oldest son, my own blood, is a Gooner. It breaks my heart. But I tell him, if you're going to be a Gooner, then be the absolute best Gooner you can be. So there's no, hey, I cheer for Spurs, and it's like a bit like Adam Richman. I guess I'll never be on the show now. Half scarf. And I just told him, I said, you can't do that. And you know what? He said to me, he goes, I understand where you're coming from. I respect your view. That's good banter. I mean, that's good back and forth. But when you're hurling abuse and all this crap that went on today, which is just inevitably going to happen when this sort of thing happens, and I just try to take a little bit of the high ground. And one guy in particular went berserk on me, and I tried to show him respect, but he doesn't deserve any. So.
And it's interesting because you look at the other side of the line, let's say, of what was in that bar today. How many of those guys were supporting Chelsea back in 2006? Now, I haven't been supporting Spurs that long. I'll be the first to admit that. I've only just grasped onto the EPL the last 2.5-ish, 3 years or so.
Right.
You plastic Ken.
I'm
jumped
such
on the
a
Spurs
plastic
bandwagon.
You did. You jumped on the Gareth Bale bandwagon.
I'm pulling hay out of the back of that bandwagon as it's driving off. Is what's happening.
Exited the quarterfinals of the Champions League.
But it's here's a lesson for anyone out there who might be listening to this or has a friend who's trying to decide. American football supporter 101. You cannot root for two teams. I will root for other teams to lose all day long. I was hoping Liverpool would lose today. I was hoping United would lose yesterday. I was hoping Southampton would lose. I'm not rooting for the other team to beat them. I'm rooting for them to lose.
Yeah.
It's very different.
Yep.
People, especially English guys I know, who follow anything from Wigan to Chelsea to United to Newcastle, and we know it's a cardinal sin, and it's the first thing that you're ever going to get mocked for is to say you've got a second team. Now, I get that you may look out for clubs that were local to where you lived if you moved away from Tottenham. Yeah. You know, I always look out for a couple of clubs, Bournemouth and Brentford, because I lived in those areas.
Barnet.
I'm really pleased to see both clubs doing really, really well in the Championship, although they stumbled of late. But all I do is I look out for their results. I don't have a red and black scarf. I don't go source where the game might be shown on TV or on an internet feed. I just look for their results, and I want them to do well. But I don't call them my second team. I look out for Leighton. Yeah. I want to make sure Leighton Orient's doing all right, and they're not. But that's it. That's as far as it goes. But to say you've got a second team, and if your first team isn't on, you're going to go cheer for them? No, you just don't do that.
I mean, I think that he was just trying to say, look, I don't hate you guys, and I really like Spurs as well. And I said, well, no, I mean, I don't think you can. Yeah. I think you can really do that.
I do hate Chelsea, by the way.
Well, look,
and that hatred has grown over the last few years. It's nothing to do with jealousy. I just hate them.
Well, and they didn't do themselves any favors today.
You know
what's funny? So I think you might have seen this on my feed the other day. I got both Rob White's book and I got Adam Pally Martin Cloak's book, and I've been reading. I'm just about through with the '80s, the book on the '80s players, and in the Tony Galvin chapter, he really hates Chelsea, and I think he encapsulated it very well. He goes, look, I hate Arsenal. Don't get me wrong, but he goes, but I have a lot of respect for what Arsenal did on the field. at a time where really nothing was given to them, right? And he goes, but Chelsea is like, well, what have they really, done? They've done about what